There is a new type of mortgage fraud is happening right now all across Canada. And the insane part is that you can see it happening in real time in our market. And it's not an income fraud that we know and we recognize. It's not those fake bank statements. It's actually something completely different. And to be honest, in some ways, it's significantly worse because this type of fraud is inflating home prices and it's costing all the buyers tens of thousands of dollars without them even realizing it. When people hear mortgage fraud, they usually think about fake incomes, inflated salaries, fake job letters, fake documents. Yes, those are still happening and they're super severe, but what's showing up more right now is actually a totally different angle of the fraud. So instead of faking the buyer's income, the fraud plays with the deal itself. So specifically the sales price and the money that flows back to the buyers at the closing. And this is not just rumors. BC financial services regulators put out a public advisory about this exact problem, what they're calling it cashback clause. They describe it as this. A buyer pays an inflated price and then the seller gives part of that money back to the buyer, often through the separate document that is not clearly part of the main purchase contract. So if it's warned in BC, it's most probably happening in Ontario and in other parts of Canada. So let me walk you through a simple example. Imagine a condo building or a townhouse complex. So recent sales are tight and normal. So we are looking at around 850,000, 855,000, 860,000, all in the same bucket, all make sense. And then suddenly you see one unit super similar to the units before for 950,000. This is $100,000 more on the purchase price, but nothing major changes. So rates didn't suddenly drop overnight. The unit is not some huge upgrade. It doesn't explain jump. And the problem is that 950,000 sales now sits as the real comparable on MLS. So buyers and sellers start thinking, oh, if they got $950,000, why I cannot? That's when the question arises. Is it a true market sell or there's something actually going behind the scene? And here is the basic idea around that sell. On a paper, the offer looks absolutely clean. High price, normal down payment, normal closing fees. But behind the scene, there is second part happening that we are not aware of. A side agreement happening, a rebate, a credit. And sometimes it's not just a few $1,000s. It can be tens of thousands of dollars or potentially more. So just to break it out in simple words, the sellers agrees to give the buyers a big chunk of money back after the closing. And the problem is if that cashback agreement is not clearly disclosed, to the lender is not seeing the real deal, how it makes the difference. The problem is effectively lower price changes everything. It changes how much lender will be lending. It makes the risk level different. It also means how much minimum down payment you can put. And basically when the money back pieces is hidden, it representation of the whole deal. And when it's deliberate, regulators treat it as a mortgage fraud. Now, why would anyone even do it? The cashback used to create the down payment actually after the fact. So on the paper, it looks like the buyer brought real money to the table. But in reality, the buyer may be walking in with a little bit to no true savings. That's the problem because the down payment is supposed to be the buyer's real stake in the house. And if the buyer doesn't actually have that money, they're starting from home ownership on a financial cliff, basically with zero money in their home. And the lender is actually making the decision basically on the wrong numbers. So why is this hurt normal people? Now you might think, okay, but isn't that the bank's problem? Yes, the buyer is totally leveraged. Yes, they have zero stake in the house. It's only the lenders, it's only the bank's problem. But no, it's actually our problem as well, because that hits normal people as well. Because of the inflated self prices becomes the new comp, something that you are comparing your home to. It affects how the buyers think the market is moving, how the sellers actually price their home, and even what the appraisers and the lenders see in the whole neighborhood. It basically skews the whole system. A single inflated sales can pull expectations up, and honest buyers can get pressured into actually paying more than they should, because they are trying to compete with the number that was never a real number in the first place. And here is another risk. If you buy based on the inflated numbers and the market actually softens, you're the one that's stuck holding the whole risk. Now, your home is not for the price that you actually paid for. So, how can you protect yourself? Be extremely cautious with the offers that include big cashback or credit that is not tied to the real cost. A smaller repair credit after the inspections, yes, makes sense, around 1.5%. That can be normal. A clear price reduction because something is broken, yes, we can argue that is normal. But pay full price and give me $80,000 back at closing for no specific reason, that's when you actually should slow down and start asking questions. Ask your lawyer, ask your realtor, ask them directly. Does the lender need to see it? Is this being disclosed on the property? And if anyone is pushing you to keep it off the paperwork or don't mention it to the lender, that's a huge red flag. Here, if you are a buyer, don't base your view on the market on one wild sell. Look at the patterns. What are the most units selling for? How long the property was on the market? What is the days on the market? Were there unusual terms? Because the clean way to do anything in a real estate is super simple. Put it in writing and disclose it properly, and let the lender decide what to do with that information. Mortgage fraud is not just paperwork happening somewhere far away. Cashback tricks can distort prices, actually hurt honest buyers, and pull regular people into the risks they never actually signed up for. So if the numbers don't make sense, stop. Ask questions. Make the math make sense before you actually sign on anything. Thank you so much for watching, and take care of yourself out there in this market.